We are at Miles Through Time Automotive Museum in Georgia. Yes, Georgia, USA. And this place is amazing. You might have seen some of the shorts where we've been doing some bits and pieces. But today I have found Sean Mathis. He is the owner, founder. Tell us about the place, Sean.
Right now, we are in the blacksmith shop. So when you first walk into the museum, you are hit with this. A lot of people do not realize that the beginning of the automobile was the blacksmith shop. If you lived too far away from where you needed repairs for the car or you needed fuel, you went to the blacksmith shop. Everything you see in here has been donated by individuals just wanting to contribute to the museum. So uh, here we've got this buggy came from a bed and breakfast. This one was in somebody's barn, and it was just going to get disposed of. This one was saved from a barn that was getting destroyed, so that where it was is gone, and it would have been gone with it. And it's pretty neat. This is actually our most recent donation in here. You can kind of see what this thing does. It's like I envision the cartoon characters, on the railroad tracks, just going back and forth on here. That's what this thing is. And a lot of this, we don't really know the true history about any of it, but just the ability to see this stuff in person is pretty much what we're all about.
So this actually ran on the railroads in the USA.
Yeah, I think it was like the workers doing repairs on the tracks. They were able to put their tools and bits in there, and then they were just, it manually just went on the tracks. It's a trip. The thing is super heavy too.
That is quite amazing. The thing that I find quite amazing here is there's very little barriers. So you can actually get really close to things and actually see something up close. Rather than being like 20 feet away or 6 feet away, you can actually look at it closely with your own eyes.
It's funny you mentioned that because this barrier we have here is like literally the only barrier in the entire museum, and that's just because obviously we don't need the little kids coming in here and start pinching fingers and that kind of stuff. But yeah, being able to get up close and personal with this stuff and not be so far out of reach where you can't really see it. Now, there's a lot of work we still need to do in here because this is all volunteer based. I am not an expert on all of this stuff that's in here, but we have a lot of people that are. And so categorizing a lot of these things and putting a number with them and explaining what they all are things that we want to do in the future. It takes a lot of work, time, effort to do all those kinds of things. And it's always a constant work in progress in here. Even the stuff that's in here, this is over years of accumulating this. It starts with one item and then another item. And then next thing you know, we had a pile of items in here, and it took another, I think that it was that buggy that came in that's on the wall. Once that came in here and there was no room in here for this, I actually picked that thing up and got the back axles just hanging on the wall there. And then it was like, all right, what else do we do in here? And how do we secure this? And then it was putting everything like organized on the wall and do stuff, because before that it was just stuff in here. So again, it's a constant work in progress. Even how it looks right now will not be how it looks eventually, because inevitably something's going to come in here and change the entire thing.
So moving on from that, which is really cool, it's a nice segue. How did you actually start the museum, and where has it grown to?
I the origin story for Miles Through Time is super unique. I started the museum in 2017 with my grandpa's 1959 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. I inherited that car in 2015, and that car has its own Facebook page, its own website. I took it to every car show I could. I got it on the cover of a magazine. And then I got tired of going to car shows every Saturday with this car in the heat, and the car didn't really fit any particular theme. And so I came up with this idea of having my car in a climate controlled environment that would allow people to come to me to see the car and not necessarily have to take them to the car. And at the time, most storage facilities were like these big warehouses of cars that, except for the owner of the car, you didn't even know it was there. And to me, I thought it was a waste. I was like, that's a bunch of cool cars sitting in there. It would be neat for people to go in there and see these cars, and I could display it as museums. So that was essentially the concept for what I wanted to do. Now, I had no intention of doing it anytime soon. I had literally one car, no money, no time to do any of this stuff. My wife and I, we just moved to Georgia. We moved to this area in Toccoa, Livonia area by Lake Hartwell. The old buildings downtown are super cheap. And so we're like, let's do an investment, get one of these buildings. We could work out of it, just multi-purpose kind of a thing. And I contact this realtor. She shows us some properties, and she's like, let me show you this building downtown. And I'm like, well, where's Toccoa? I've never been there, all this stuff. I'm like, by the way, is there a building that I can park this car in it and get it out of my garage? Ultimately, there was no building like that, but there was this old Ford dealership. And the old Ford dealership was like beyond what I was going to be capable of doing. But there was a couple old cars in it, and I had time. So I was like, hey, just so you know, I can't buy the building, but you want to show it to me? Let's go check it out. I get in there, and it's like an abandoned Ford dealership from the 80s, 90s. Tires everywhere, wood paneling, just this old little dealership. And I get in there, and I'm like, I would do this and this and this. And it's all this stuff that hypothetically I had in my mind that I would do if I could. She tells me her dad owns the building, and I needed to talk to him. So he comes over, and again, I tell him all the stuff I would do in this building. And that was it. First day I'd met the realtor, her dad, I shook his hand, nice to meet you. I went home. Next day I get a phone call from the realtor. She's like, my dad's down there knocking buildings or knocking walls down. You need to go talk to him. So I go down there, and he's like, yeah, you motivated me, and now I'm going to renovate this building. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have any real resources to do what I was talking about. And it was actually my wife. She's like, you've got to do this. I was like, how do I do it? And she's like, we'll find a way. And so she created the entire brand for the museum. The guy that owned the building finished his renovation, and we opened up miles through time with one car. I had internet installed in the building, and that guy turned out he had a 27 Model T. That was car number 2. And the guy that owned the building wound up having a couple cars. I get those cars in there, and then it just snowballed. And for 3 years, if that museum was open, it was because I was there. Wednesday through Saturday, April through October. It was me turning this museum into something. Now, in that building, I tried to offer storage and consignment as a means to get more cars on display. I quickly learned I hate consignment, and nobody needs storage in a rural area. So it left me just the museum aspect of it, which was what I actually enjoyed the most. But after 3 years, I learned that it really wasn't going to be able to get to where it needed to be in that building, in that location. So in 2019, I decided to close the museum. I had the opportunity to move it into this current location inside of an old mill in a town 20 minutes north. And it was inside of an unused portion of a flea market. And that's where we moved the museum. The thing is we had to start over from scratch, first of all. But instead of one car, I had like 6 cars that came with me this time. The big difference, though, is that the guy that owned the flea market that we moved the museum inside of would staff it. So I wouldn't physically have to be at the museum, and now it would be open all year long. All it would cost was a portion of our admission, which to me, the alternative was no museum at all. So we moved it here. Of course, 2020 happened, a bunch of delays. Eventually, we did open the museum. For 15 months, it went great. Again, the cars just started rolling in, filled it up in no time. I actually was getting a donated car. It's a Ford Ghia Arioso that you'll see in here. And I was bringing it in through the back door, and the guy that was the owner of the flea market comes back there. And he's like, by the way, I'm not going to renew my lease. So I was like, you got to be kidding me. The museum, if you don't know, no museums generate enough revenue from admission alone to operate. This museum is no different. I can't afford to be here museum alone. So after a quick panic, I figured out that I could remove the flea market and create my own version of it. So Vintage Garage Antiques is what you first walk into. It operates as a giant gift shop for the museum. But what it is a bunch of individual vendors that pay for their booths, and that pays for the entire space, including the museum. And that enabled us to take down this wall right here. There's a big section of it that we took down and expanded into what is our third gallery. That worked so well that we took out a second lease and doubled the size of the museum, which was paid for by increasing the size of the antique store. And so now we're in just shy of 50,000 square feet. We have 4 galleries to the museum, and we average around 130 full-size vehicles on display at any time. And we now have over 5,000 model cars and hundreds of other historical artifacts on display. And all of this was done bootstrapped with no wealthy benefactor. Literally everything in here is here because somebody made the decision to be a part of the museum, and it just keeps growing. It's really neat. It's unlike any other museum, and it made it so that we've got, you know, stuff from like this all the way up to right now a 22 GT 500 and literally everything you could think of in between.